Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel, or rather welcome to my channel because I haven't really been here in about a year. Most of that's because I'm in school, full-time student. I was interning over the summer. Things got kind of busy, and also this is a beast of a build that you guys are watching right now. So basically this build had taken me about 3 weeks to make, and it's based on the live action Cinderella Chateau. Um, I've seen the 2015 version of the Cinderella, the Cinderella live action movie. That's one of my favorite movies, and I'm really happy with how this build had come out. And I built it about a year ago. Um, so basically, everything has been about a year ago. And if I'm being honest, I haven't really touched The Sims in about a year either because I just haven't had time, unfortunately. And also, I have this weird like mental block where like I can't like build stuff or until I finish what I started. So basically, I've been thinking about this build for this been in the back of my head for the last year, and every time I open The Sims to like do some recreational playing or build something, I'll just think about this video and I'll be like, man, I didn't finish that video. I have to go finish it. I can't build it before I finish it. So here we are. Here's the finished product. Now, you're not going to see all of the build in this video, mostly because I didn't think the interior was that exciting to watch. I tried to keep it as accurate to the movie as possible, and it definitely came out pretty good in my opinion. However, whenever I watch builds, I just don't really enjoy the interior decorating as much as I enjoy the exterior. Um, but the interior is done. It just won't be shown here. And also, the video will be like an hour and 15 minutes if I include the interior. So I just thought it'd be best if I left it out. Um, but here I'm just kind of going around the outline of of the chateau based on what the movie depicted. Um, I had a lot of reference pictures when I was doing this because I really wanted to just build justice. And that's mainly because I just really, really love the live action movie. And I cannot stress how much I love that movie. I just think the messaging behind it is so well done. You know, I just, yes, I am a 21-year-old, and yes, I'm a senior in college. However, I don't think this movie is for kids at all. Like, it is for children, of course, but the live action version, I think it has a more realistic view on life, and it's just a whole, like, well-rounded, very wholesome movie. So, again, really want to do that movie justice, really wanted to do this build justice, because the castle was incredible on its own in the film. However, if you're not familiar with the movie, it mainly takes place in this house. There's a village market, and then there's a major palace. And from the first time I watched that movie, I just loved the chateau, like her childhood home. It's so beautiful. Unfortunately, a lot of the capabilities in The Sims don't really adhere well to real life, as we all know. And, this is specifically for the interior part of the build, but you won't be seeing it. But in the movie, they had this yellow wallpaper that went up the walls and up the staircase, and it was like a spiral staircase. It all merged together. It was so beautiful. Um, I tried recreating that in the Sims version in the interior, but it just didn't translate as well as I would have liked, which is also part of the reason why I don't want to show the interior in this video. Um, Solely because, it came out really, really nice, but it just it just wasn't what I would have liked it to look like. I would have liked it to have looked like the film. But of course there's some things just aren't that as capable of doing that in The Sims. But I think I really captured the essence of the movie, of what it looked like in the movie. I think I captured its character. Um, but the exterior I'm very proud of. It is very detailed, and let me tell you, when I was editing this video, I was like, wow, I really kind of went overboard with the exterior, but like even to the details of just having the roofing underneath the windows, which is what it looks like in the movie. You know, I first I skipped over that detail, but once I added it, I was like, wow, that really makes it look like what it looks like in the film. And yeah, so now it's just basically all very tedious work, but something I really enjoy. And the thing is too is that you'll notice everything is not like the structure of the house itself is quite rigid, but as I get into the landscape, you'll see that it just kind of flows very naturally. It kind of, there's no rigid paths, there's no rigid, it just kind of flows. And the reason for that is because I wanted to feel very airy and open. In the movie, there are walls around this house. I had tried adding walls to this home, and at some point in this build, you'll see, but it just felt too uniform. It felt too structured. And I think growing up, uh, Ella in the movie, her mother was a very loving and caring and very free flowing person. So I just kind of wanted to emulate that with this chateau. So a lot of plants and a lot of nature inspired kind of land, like the way the paths are shaped. It's all very much like it's a part of nature rather than it being like built around nature, if that makes sense. But here I'm just adding the front porch area, and I had tried to get the bottom to look like the top rounded like that because again I wanted to keep it, it's structured but not too structured. I wanted to be kind of free flowing. uh for some reason it just wasn't letting me um mimic the top part of the balcony, but that's okay. I think it came out pretty good. I think it's good having a bit mismatched. um this is also post Cottage Living's expansion pack. When it first came out, if you'll notice on this channel, I believe I have three cottages actually that I built, but two are built with the Cottage Living pack. This build, I decided to build it after that Cottage Living pack came out because of the wisteria vines. In the movie, the house has a lot of wisteria on it, and I think it kind of needs that for some of that charm and so I think the ivy is very important to this house. So it's not so bland and gray to look at. It's very much a part of the natural world, which, as again, you'll see is a common theme throughout this build. Um, but it also like took some playing around with. Honestly, the ivy is not what took the longest, but definitely was the most tedious part of the build because I wanted to be like I want it to be all over, but not too much. Not like, oh my god, it's so overgrown, but more like, okay, it's just more of a stylistic choice, if you will. Um, and I think it definitely accomplished that, and I'm very happy with how it has come out so far. But also, in my hectic schedule, I've managed to fit in watching The House of the Dragon, which is a HBO Max series that's a prequel to Game of Thrones. And I know it's not really related to this build at all, but I just watched episode 3. It just came out last night. So as I'm recording this video, it's September 5th. And yesterday I watched episode 3, just came out. So good. I am a big Game of Thrones fan, and I am very happy. I know some people are like hesitant to watch The House of the Dragon because it just kind of, season 8 was kind of a letdown for a lot of people. But personally, I didn't think it was horrendous. Okay, I don't think Game of Thrones season 8 was absolutely horrendous. I think it was somewhat, um, it was lackluster in some areas and definitely could have used some work in other areas, all areas actually, but it really wasn't that bad. And I'm gonna keep saying that. It really wasn't that bad. And, but House of the Dragon so far has really blown me away. I really love how they're doing the show, and it's also very exciting because it has like a $20 million budget per episode, which is insane. And I think it really shows the production quality of it. And yeah, so far, big fan. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you couldn't tell, I am, well, maybe you can't tell, but I'm a very huge movie buff. I love movies. I love to watch movies. Uh, I'll get critical about anything regarding movies or shows. And in my real life, I'm not really mean spirited at all, but when it comes to shows, I'm not afraid to tear apart a character. And I will say when I think a show is crap, and I will say that House of Dragon is not crap at all. It's a really good show. And I'm very happy to be in the groove of getting back to the Game of Thrones world and seeing what it was like 200 years before. And I don't want to give too much away because I know some people haven't seen it yet. And, especially my boyfriend who's going to be watching this build, he has not seen House of the Dragon yet and has not seen Game of Thrones. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but overall would recommend uh, to anyone, honestly. Uh, but getting back to this build, here I'm just trying to figure out the fountain situation. I decided on this smaller fountain. I was gonna go for a bigger one, but I was looking at the footage of from the live action movie, and I didn't think I thought like less is more almost with this build. It's all beautifully ornate or beautifully ornate, I guess you would say, but it's still quite simple. Well, which is kind of like an oxymoron, I will say, like to say it's ornate but simple, because they kind of don't go together. But that's the best way I can describe the way her house looked in the live action movie. And yeah, I just think it's very all very simple, but all very put together at the same time, I guess is the words I'm looking for. But here I am going back in with the ivy. Again, never too much ivy in this build, and there's definitely a lot of it because nature. That's the only word I can use, just nature. But yeah, I think it's just it's all very almost repetitive. Like, this took a long time, but this build has a lot of repetitive features throughout it, like with the roofing underneath the windows and the columns and the stone and the flower pots and the ivy. It's all kind of all over this house, and it was a bit repetitive to build, and that's why it kind of got a bit tedious because it has all the same qualities throughout the build. It just is kind of spread out. Um, so yeah, but I think it's so far, you can see it really coming together. And here I'm just building like the stable area. Unfortunately, we still do not have horses in the Sims 4. And it's really sad to say that we don't, because we got a COD's living pack a year ago and we have no horses. We got cows. We have, it's either llamas or alpacas. I can't remember which one it is. And we have chickens, which is nice. However, we don't have horses. And I would have loved to have added a horse in this build because we have a stable. But instead, as you'll see, I added chicken coops because the cow pen is too big to fit inside. And I know chickens like to live outdoors, but I had to add something to the stable. I was like, we have livestock now. We have animals. Gotta add something. So I added chickens. And does it make sense they're in a stable? No, not necessarily. But that's what we're rocking with. And maybe one day we'll get horses. And I really hope we do. Um, but here I am again going in with that ivy. I added little molding features onto the stable, which is a bit different from the main house, and that's because I wanted to like I didn't want to be like just like a stable that was kind of like thrown together. I wanted to be like a feature. I wanted to be beautiful. I wanted to be just as pretty as the main house. Uh, and so I wanted to add its own little unique feature. I separate it from the main house, but it still is a stable. I just wanted to have a little bit of extra pizzazz, if you will. And I'm also like mixing textures on the stable. I'm adding some wooden windows, and I think it just kind of adds to more of a like a barny kind of feel almost. Like it's not as grand as the main house. It's still grand, but it has some of that natural earth tones to it. So I don't know. Again, I had a vision in mind. It's been a year since I built this, and I think it's coming out really well. Um, but it's definitely uh, there's some things I would have done a bit differently, but so far I think it's coming along quite well. And also, I wasn't too sure about this little back thing I'm adding here, but that's what it looked like in the movie actually. It's not like it's a little bit of weird design, if I must admit, but it does add dimension to it, and that's exactly how it looks in the movie. I double checked it, I triple checked it, and that's what it looks like. So I was like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing. And honestly, I don't hate it. It's a bit strange. I wouldn't, if I was doing this build on my own, I don't think I would have added like a back rectangle to the already existing rectangle in this way, but it works, I think, for this build. Um, I also kind of like this little L shape it makes in the back, but yeah, but here I'm back to landscaping. I'm going around the circle with these round bushes, and here it's trying to make it uniform without being uniform is the task. So that's you'll see at the end of the video, you'll see like the type of fencing I have is just plainly bushes, and it's just it's just how it is. Here I'm adding a cobblestone fence, but it's just in that one area. The rest of the house is kind of, and you can kind of see here, I have some more fencing around the house, than I did before. I cut that part out because again, you'll see it more right here. I have a lot of fencing around the house, and you can see how it looks just too rigid. It just isn't the vibe, if you will. And I don't know. It just wasn't doing it for me. So it gets changed out to no fencing, even though in the movie it has really high walls as well, but it just, again, some things just don't translate to The Sims from real life, and things that work in The Sims wouldn't translate to real life, so you just gotta make do it. It's just heavily inspired by, but it's not an exact replica, but I tried to keep it as close to the film as possible. I would have wished to have less modern windows for the greenhouse. I would have liked to be a little bit more ornate, a little bit whimsical, a little more fantastical, if you will. But um, I think it kind of works mixing the ornate with the almost, they aren't modern by any means, but they're also not old world by any means either. But I felt those windows were the best fit for a greenhouse kind of look. Uh, yeah, I think it came out quite nice, honestly. I really loved the way the greenhouse came out. And if you've seen the movie, which I assume you have if you're watching this video, or maybe you just enjoy watching Sims builds in general. But the greenhouse was a big part of the film. It's where the pumpkin got its, like, the pumpkin and the greenhouse like fused together to form the carriage that Cinderella goes to the ball in. So it's a big moment. So I kind of want it to look very beautiful, and you know, and I think it does. am doing a lot of fancy build stuff here. Uh, yeah, I honestly really this build like really it made me think out of the box in a lot of areas. Like with the greenhouse, I had to add flat level to the top to add the molding around the back. I had to add a small square to add that round little like roof feature on top of the regular roof because that's what it looked like in the movie. It's just a lot of little tiny details that make it special. Um, but this is me going inside the greenhouse, and I decided to do like a dirt floor. I wasn't exactly sure what flooring it had in the movie, but I felt dirt was the best. And of course, you have to add pumpkins because this is where the whole pumpkin carriage thing fiasco began. So of course, first thing I added was pumpkins to the greenhouse, and I kind of bounced all over the place in this build, you'll find, and and I'll go back to the greenhouse later on. You'll see me add more plants to it. But here, I noticed in the movie there's like a two-tier kind of thing going on in the backyard. Like it's kind of level to the rest of the ground in the front courtyard. But when you go into the back courtyard, it kind of like a gradual incline, and it's more separated by fencing and everything like that. And I cut this part out, but I had it look more rigid with the fencing before, but now it's kind of more of a natural incline. And again, in The Sims, it just looked too rigid. It just didn't flow. It didn't feel beautiful. It just felt kind of like, I'm gonna add a fence here and it's gonna separate this area. I just wanted it all to flow kind of naturally. Um, and I think it works pretty well. I smoothed this area out a bit. The greenhouse was also, I ended up doing, you'll see, but I'm adding some like front porch area to the greenhouse. Um, because in the movie, it was kind of like on a split level in the movie, and I have to, again, you have to think outside the box of this build. It just a lot of levels were in the movie, and I just thought it wouldn't be the same if I kept it all flat. So I think it came out really well. It just kind of all snapped together, and yeah, and I think I'm going to add some. Yeah, here I go. I'm adding some more terrain now, and you'll see I kind of make a level around the greenhouse, and then when it gets to the front porch, I make it kind of go down into a decline so that it goes kind of flat again, which to the rest of the ground to kind of create that multi-terrain kind of look. And I think this really helps a lot with the build. I think it adds some character. There's already a lot of character in this build, but it adds some more dimension and detail for sure. Um, and again, not 100% sure of the flooring on the courtyard in the movie, but I felt this looked the best. Um, but yeah, it's just a lot of terrain tools were used in this build. A lot of terrain tools. Uh, they're fun to use though. I know a lot of people don't really like terrain tools all that much, but I think they're kind of fun. It can get tricky sometimes, but it adds like a bunch of extra depth to your build that wouldn't normally be there. So I think they're quite fun. I'm adding another fountain back here because there's another fountain. This is where she cries in the Cinderella live action movie. I wasn't sure of the placement of the fountain. I wasn't 100% positive because it just they didn't really show like a grand like overview of the backyard. So I kind of just put it in the center there because I felt it made the most sense in this build. And this lot is 64 by 64, I believe. And it's a little bit, I would have needed some more space to get all the scaling correct, but this is the biggest lot in the game. So I did what I could. But here I am just adding some more plants to the greenhouse and making it look more green. Adding some fun little plants. I think I take those down. Yeah, yeah, that was a choice. It might not be the right choice, but it was definitely a choice. Um, I'm glad I took those down, but yeah, there's a lot of trial and error with this greenhouse because it just seeing what plants work. I didn't want to all look the same. I wanted to be all be kind of these random plants all thrown together. With of course the pumpkins being the highlight of the whole thing. I probably could have added some more real plants, like have like a little carrot station or whatever, but I I don't know. I just wanted to make it look more pretty than functional. You're more than welcome decide to build like if you decide to download this build to make it more functional than pretty. Uh, but yeah, this is just some choices that I've made. But again, like if you can change whatever you want to change in this build when you download it. The only thing I ask is that you don't re-upload it once you make the changes or try to take credit for it. But yeah, I mean, here I am just adding some windows, and I wasn't really sure of the windows, honestly. When I remember when I was building this, I wasn't really 100% positive I liked those windows for the builds. It felt very bland, but I think it was the most similar I could get to the film. Like in the movie, it was stone windows like this. They're just a bit bigger, and I'm limited to the packs that I have. I don't have every single pack in the game, and I The Sims on already doesn't have like a huge selection of stuff to choose from. So I did the best I could, and yeah, I adding some more ivy now. It's always the ivy, always comes back to the ivy. But I really think it adds something, like that would have just been a really bland wall without the greenery because it's all gray stone. Oh, that's another thing too. In the movie, the stone was more brown. It was like a brownish kind of taupe stone. It was like a yeah, it was like a weird mixture. It was like a mixture of browns in the structure. And I had that color of brick on this, but it just didn't look good to put it plainly. In real life, it would have had so much character, it would have looked great, but it just didn't wasn't doing it for me in The Sims. It just felt too dark and drabby, and I wanted to mimic like the lightness that was felt in her childhood home before the stepmother came in and before all of that. So this is definitely open. It's a interpretation, but the structure is the same, and I think it's coming out really well. Um, but yeah, like I said, it gets kind of repetitive with all the ivy, but here I am adding some landscaping. We love landscaping. They add everything that you need to a house. If it's looking drab on the outside, just add some greenery, and I think it looks much better. But, like personally, when I first started playing The Sims, I was in sixth grade, and I believe, I was 11. Yeah, because I had gotten The Sims 3 for Christmas, and it had like it was like it was like a bundle that came with the Supernatural pack and the Late Night pack, and I believe the Luxury Stuff pack, or Luxury Stuff pack, not like an actual expansion pack, but like the stuff pack. Um, and I started playing The Sims then. At the time, I didn't really care much for building, and when I did build, I never added landscaping. I was like, ah, who needs trees? But now, as I've grown as a Sims player, I realize you do need trees in your builds. In fact, if you don't have trees, it just kind of looks sad. So, adding a lot of trees, especially for this build, it's like, again, main theme of this build, be one with nature. This build is very much free flowing. I wanted to have a lot of trees, a lot of plants, a lot of all that stuff to make it feel flowy and whimsical and magical. And yeah, so yeah, Sims 3, man. Remember the you we had like the taxis come pick you up, you didn't have a car, and now we don't even have cars in The Sims 4. Um, yeah, love The Sims 4 though. It's so much better for building. I think part of the reason why I didn't really get into building with The Sims 3 is because they made it so difficult, like to like just build like a square house. It was like so technical, and as an 11-year-old, I just didn't want to deal with it. And also as an 11-year-old, I honestly not even just as an 11-year-old, I when I was younger, I used to play Zoo Tycoon 2. It was the second version of Zoo Tycoon. And they had all these different like zoo options. You could play like with like money of like 3,000 or whatever. I always chose unlimited mode. My sister would get really mad at me. She's like, how you supposed to learn money management if you don't play with unlimited mode? And that's just carried on throughout my gaming experience. It started with Tycoon, and then I got this Sims 3. I would use the cheat motherload every Sims game. I would cheat my way to becoming a 5-star celebrity. I would kick people out of their mansions and move my Sims into their mansions because I wasn't patient enough to make money and to actually make a substantial home for my Sims. I would just rather start at the mansion level. And unfortunately, I can't say I improve much because whenever I play The Sims or build in The Sims, building's one thing. When you're building something, you want to have a limited money, okay? Because there is no limit, okay? You just have to build until your heart is contented. And so any build I do, it's unlimited. However, when I have no excuse for myself when it comes to actually like playing with Sims, like I just cheat all the time. I'll use motherload. I I I just I'll admit it. I'm just really bad at being patient, and honestly, it's the truth in real life as well. I work a lot, but also I believe that I don't really have much like monetary willpower, if you will. Like when I see something I want, I will buy it. And I don't really care how much it costs. And then I wonder why, like, freshman year of college was the worst year. Like, I would be making money. It got to a point where I only had $50 left in my debit card account because I just kept on spending money. I had no willpower to stop myself. So, and I have, my boyfriend, I would spend money on him, and it was a whole thing. But basically, now I'm better. Now I'm like, no, I need to save my money. So I've been doing really good for the last 2 years. I haven't really spent much money on things. If I see something, if I see a Gymshark outfit, I'll be like, okay, I'll buy it. I think it's just like a gradual progression in life, though. Like when you're younger, you don't really care that much. But now that I'm 21, I'm like better at it. But also, I'm still really impatient about things. Um, but here you can really see segue over to the landscaping. You can see really how the landscaping is not uniform at all. It doesn't look like a stereotypical like upper class old mansion looking landscaping. It's very free, and I wanted to be look a little bit overgrown. I wanted to be, I just wanted to be natural and not like these people keep it maintained all the time because in the movie before the stepmother came, it was all about, being kind and letting things grow as they grow. And you can see here I'm leading that path. I would have actually, if I had built this build today, I would have um, probably added like a dirt path back here. Like nothing crazy, but maybe a little something just because it's a lot of green and there's barely anything to break it up. But if you want, you can add that into your own build if you download it, if you choose to. You don't have to, of course, but um, yeah, I think it could have benefited from a little bit of something in the backyard. But yeah, I really also love how I add a bit of dirt to the terrain paint here. Um, it just kind of adds like it just makes it feel real. Um, I'm really happy with how the landscaping has been coming out. And I know when I was building this, I was really happy with the landscaping as well. Um, I also am adding like these little tiny grass flower things because I don't know, they add some texture, and I thought it would just benefit the build more than anything. Oh, and I love this pond feature. Okay, like come on now. Like I love I love the pond feature that came with Cottage Living. I used to in my older builds that I didn't do speed builds until like last year, but on the gallery, I saw my older builds posted, and I would make it out of a pool. Like if I wanted like a moat around the castle, I do like a basement, and then I add a pool to the basement, and then I would make it look like a moat, and I add a bridge on top, and it was just it looked nice, but like this just adds a whole nother level, in my opinion, and makes it's not so rigid because like you could hide the edges with a pool like the pool edges but with like landscaping what have you, but I think that um having the more rounded edges and like letting it just be a pond without any additional need to zhuzh it up um makes it really special. I love the pond feature, and it's really easy to use too. If you haven't already, which I'm sure most people have it by now, like you should probably download Cottage Living just because I think it's one of the better packs. Personally, you get a lot of good features with it and a lot of fun build items, and yeah, I just think it's a great pack to use. And also, if you're more into gameplay, um, which personally I'm not, and I have tried, but sometimes I will down my feet in it, and if I do get into gameplay, I definitely enjoy doing cottage living gameplay because you get to play with animals and it's just fun having the cows be there. I believe there's foxes too, and there's bunnies. Oh my god, the bunny log. I love when all the bunnies come. It makes my day because like you'll have like a little bunny trunk and then they'll like all hop over there and it's really cute. Um, but I'm just adding the final touches. I wish I would have added those giant white that like here I'm hiding it here. I wish I would have left it like that. Like have it be like let it look a little bit more symmetrical like that. I think that added something. I wish I would have left that in. But I digress. It's fine. If you want to add those trees in, I don't know if they're base game. They might be island living if I'm being completely honest, but they could be base game. Uh, but I wish I would have left them in on the front. Like they look great where they are now, but I wish I would have mirrored it. So it's like kind of the same kind of feeling. And here I just mimicked like the bushes in the front, even though they don't like go anywhere because it just adds something. It just makes it look more cohesive. And yeah, some more ivy, of course. Can't miss out on the ivy. Uh, And no, I really did enjoy doing this build though. Like when I was building this, I know I'm saying it's like, oh, it's so tedious, yeah, and it was, but I love that kind of thing. I just love to like be able to like sit down and like fixate on something and make sure every single feature is as good as it can be. And I had a lot of fun creating this build. Um, it just it all looks so beautiful, and I think it came out really nice. And yeah, I was really proud of myself for this one, and I'm glad I finally got around to editing it. 3 weeks of footage. However, to be fair, I did cut out the last 3 days of footage because that was the interior part of the thing. And yeah, I mean, I know some people like to see the interior. I do too, but if it was a shorter build, I would have left it in. but for this one, it just would have been too long, and I can't talk that long personally. I am not a big talker, so uh, yeah, but this was a lot of fun, and I'm adding some more of those little flowers in the front yard now, and yeah, just making it a bit more cohesive with the backyard. And I think eventually add like a little dirt path to the back stairway, uh, to the backyard. I'm pretty sure I do. I think I'm gonna, no, I add some more dirt here, which is good because it makes it look a little less uniform, a little less like it's freshly new. Like I want it to look a bit lived in. Um, I must be adding it soon. I'm pretty sure. Oh, I didn't really have changed that ivy, but that's okay. It looks better this way. Um, okay, and that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Uh, Subscribe if you would like to see more of my content, and don't forget to hit the notification bell if you want to be notified every single time I post. And can't wait to make some more content for this channel and actually stick with it this time. Alright, until next time, bye.